down 10,
Yes.
stop, and you got 10
Yes.
minutes left. So I think we will we'll open it up for some Q&A at the end here, if that's helpful. Now you know what? Let's get started, shall we? Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for your goodness. And God, we've come together. Your word says that iron sharpens iron, God. And that we all here are here because we desire to grow and to learn and to be better men and women of God, first and foremost. And then to be better leaders of what you've called us to lead and what you've called us to do. So Lord, today we just ask for your Holy Spirit to lead and guide and direct this time. And some of the things, God, are just very real and things in our lives. And as we are honest with ourselves and things become aware to us, God, help us to have the courage of our convictions to change. We just ask now for your blessings in Jesus' name. Amen. There was I just had thought about it, a teaching by Henry Cloud. You familiar with Henry Cloud? And I just thought about it because of who's here. And how many of those, there's lots of times where you're going to preach or you say something and you're getting all ready and you look out, the very people you had written this whole sermon for aren't here. And that's the way God does sometimes. But Henry Cloud, he talked about three groups of people. He said, there's the wise, the unwise, and the fool. And he applies it, he's a psychologist, to dealing with people and challenges. And lots of times we can spend 90% of our time dealing with one category. And he said, you need to be careful and be aware. He said, and he kind of goes through this drawing and things, and he said, first of all, there's the wise. He said, and he's speaking in a conference, he said, and all of you, I would categorize her in that category. Because the wise say, help me understand, and you listen, and we listen, and we say, that's helpful, I'm going to change. Those are wise people. He said, then there are the unwise. He said, the unwise, he said, are people we teach, and they like resist, they push back, and they resist, and they push back, and they resist, and they push back. He said, and for that group, he said, the first group, when I preach to them, they think everybody is like the wise, but they're not. Most of the people that we deal with are in the middle category, unwise. And for whatever the reasons, and there could be 1,000, but there's pushback and they challenge and hello, and all of these things. He said, so there's the wise. He said, you guys think everybody's like you, that, oh, I didn't know that. And so I changed. But the unwise, they're like, I don't know if I buy that, I don't want to do that, I'm against that, I oppose that, I push back on that. He said, the wise just listen, learn, change. Unwise, you have to prove it to them. And sometimes you have to prove it to them to the point where you say, if you keep doing this, you will get fired. Wait a minute, let me think this over again. And there needs to be consequences. And we have children. There's some that you teach and they're crying before you even get the lecture done. And then there's others that are like, oh yeah, that whole, what did they say? I might be sitting down on the outside, but I'm still standing up on the inside, And there has to be, and he said that's the biggest category of the people that we need to understand and work with and help them understand. And then he says, and then there's the third category, the wise, the unwise, and the fool. He said, this is my recommendation for the third group. Lawyers, money, and guns. He said, that's all that'll take care of it. Because there are some people, and to be serious, they will push their point at the destruction of the whole organization.
That's right.
They don't care. And there is no amount of conversation or challenges that's going to change their mind. I've watched in organizations as someone, I will support my point of view to the death of the whole organization. And we can spend a lot of time, and for those of us who are in leadership, that can cause the biggest stress. And he, as a sociologist, psychologist, says, you guys, we're spending time, we're trying to convince that third that it's just inevitable. Obviously, he's joking. You need more than guns and lawyers and money. But he's just saying, the middle group, that's the people that are teachable. I grew up, I was a compliant child. Parents said, he was just the easiest kid. There was 8 kids, and I was just like, okay, yep, that's what I do, you know. One time my brother, we were always had trade off washing dishes, and I was just a compliant child. Yep, get up there, start washing the dishes. And my next brother, his nickname was Muggsy. He was a full ride scholarship, football, middle linebacker, tough as nails, fullback, if you know those positions. And I remember he got, this was familiar. He would just stay there, and I'd get up, and I would go and start doing the dishes, and I was just like, but you know, I did it. And then one day, I just had enough. And my dad said, okay, you boys, stop watching TV, you get up there and start doing them dishes. So I get up there and start doing the dishes. And I said, Dad, you don't even ask Garrett because you can't get him to do it. I pushed my limits. And my dad looked at me like, and my brother looked at me like they were both angry with me, like confronting the reality of what was going on there. So, I don't know that ended well. So this session came out of a brief teaching that I did with the presbytery a year ago. And welcome, there's good morning. Someone could hand in those outline there. And they said, you know, this was really helpful. And I think one of the things that helps us in leadership is to just honestly get honest and help those people in that middle category with things that sometimes we're not even fully aware of. And so I just want you to know, I'm going to talk about 20 things here. And as I taught it, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, yep, that's me, yep, oh my, that's me too, yep, that's me too, that's me too. And the presbyters were just like, worse and worse were all of these things, or various ones. And I still haven't told you all of what we're talking about, but I think it's important for us to help someone to come alongside us and make something aware, make us aware of something that maybe we're blind to. And so I began with this question, and the question is, what is it that makes for a great leader? What would you say when you look at people and you say, he's a great leader? For what I'm going to talk about here, there's lots of definitions, but for this principle and for what I'm going to share here today, I would say a good definition of a great leader is one who helps others reach their goals. That's probably different than what you're thinking, and what you had thought of, and what went through your head when I said, what is the definition of a great leader? And I would say there's this huge aspect, and that's what we're going to talk about today, is someone who helps others effectively reach their goals. And I think about the people that have spoken to my life, that have changed my life, because they have helped me develop and become who I am. And I've had most of those in my life before I was saved. I grew up in a large Lutheran family. And so most of my coaching came by coaches. I played all the sports, and we had some great coaches. We went to state in football, basketball, track. We had great sharp coaches that spoke into our lives, saw things in us, and brought correction when it was necessary. And both of those things are helpful because, you know, it's good to feel good about yourself, but at some point you want to grow. You want to help. You want to raise the ceiling of the threshold of your leadership ability. And all of us, everybody here, we're called to lead in some way. And so hopefully this will help you. And the title is, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And really, a part of this came out of a book by Marshall Goldsmith, but I've added a number of other things to it. So, great leaders are those who help others reach their goals. So just think about that. And we're kind of hearing that as spiritual fathers and everything having to do with something similar. And so I'd like to just kind of jump ahead to this, some of the points, but before I do, I often share a question, and it's kind of a rhetorical question, and when I was teaching at the college, I just remember students were like, okay, I think this is a trick question. And the question is, it sounds simple, but think carefully. The question is, what is the fruit? Now don't answer me. I was in one church, there was this little guy, and every time I asked a rhetorical question, he answered me. So don't do that because you'll blow my cover here. My question is, what is the fruit of an apple tree? What's the real fruit of an apple tree? I remember students were like, no, I'm telling you to go there. I'm going to be embarrassed if I answer, because I'm thinking apple. The fruit of an apple tree, and this is a principle I push because it helps us think differently. The fruit of an apple tree is not an apple, but another apple tree. The fruit of an apple tree, and we think one generation too low. An apple will fall, die, get consumed, and it's gone. But if we think about the fruit is another generation, we think very differently. So the fruit of an apple tree is not an apple, but think the fruit of an apple tree is another apple tree. Clones are exact replicas, but God created all of us differently. We've got a number of newly credentialed people, and God created you with different gifts and abilities, and the people you're going to lead are going to have different aspirations, different gifts, different goals. And if we're going to truly answer that question, that leadership is about others effectively reaching their goals, then we have to understand that we're not making replicas, but we're making new trees. God created us differently. Jesus said, go make disciples. He didn't say go make clones. He didn't say just go make converts. He said fulfill what God has put in their hearts. And so we're going to talk about that. You know, I think in leadership, we spend a lot of time teaching leaders what to do, and we don't spend enough time teaching leaders what to stop doing. And I find there's a whole lot of that in my life and other people's lives as well. Half of the leaders I have met don't need to learn what to do. They need to learn what to stop doing. And the reason is because success has its downfall. There's a book I read that was really transformational years and years ago. It was called Halftime. And the book's subplot by Bob Buford, a great book, talks about getting to the midpoint of his life. And I wasn't going to tell the illustration, I'll tell it real quickly. The preface of this book is this guy, Bob Buford, was successful in every way. He was a Christian businessman. He had inherited a cable TV network from his family, and he was now in his mid-40s, 50s. He had a son, one and only son. His son went to MIT, a big school, Ivy League school on the East Coast, had graduated. His son was heading to his first job. He said it was a 6-digit income. I mean, that's $100,000 or more, and this was 20 years ago. Proud of his son. He was in the church, the father, Bob Buford. He was in the church, president of the business, inherited this business, making money, respected. People that asked him to speak. He was influential at all of these things, he said. And then one day, his son graduates, and his son is about to take this job, but before his son takes the position, he and a buddy of his decide they want to see what it was like to swim across the Rio Grande. They were from Texas, and so they were going to do this fast-moving current of the Rio Grande River. And so they began to swim, and his son disappears. The buddy swimming with him couldn't find him, couldn't locate him, calls the father, and the father said, at that point, not much else in life mattered. He said, I hired helicopters and search dogs and search teams, everything that money could buy, and we didn't find our son alive. He said, that changed my life. It changed my life. He said, I had all the success in the world, but was I living a life of sustainable significance? And that book talks about those things in our life, the difference between successes are good. It's good to feel successes. And I visit with young leaders and older leaders, and there's something about at least feeling like you know something, isn't it? You grow and you want to learn and you want to assert yourself, and I know stuff about this, and I can understand things, and I've got gifts and I've got abilities, and we want to get a few successes under our belt. It helps us encourage what we know, that we know something, that we have some value. But at some point in our life, we want our life to count. It's not that, he did this and he built this and he did this and my entire life. Moving from success to having a significant life. And significant lives occur when we're honest about who we are. And we're candid of our strengths as well as our weaknesses. But the problem with successful people is that success can be our downfall. Success can be the very downfall in our life. Successful people succeed. And when they do, it builds confidence in their abilities. So far, so good. And confidence then can move into arrogance. And they stop listening to others. I have been there on more situations that I've learned. And then we begin to overrate our contribution to the team. And we underestimate the help that we can get from others. And that's what success can do. Successful people think, what I'm doing is successful. It works. I'm achieving. I'm making a profit. Things are growing. We're making money. I'm getting awards. People are complimenting me. I'm advancing. So tell me again why I should change. And so we stop listening. And we're not like that first group, the good, who says, help me, teach, I want to learn, I want to grow. We're in that middle group that says, I don't know, maybe not. And we've all spoken to people, and we could see that in their composure, or lack thereof, or whatever. It's just like, I remember and I remember speaking years ago, and I'm not the greatest, most eloquent speaker. Anyway, I'm speaking, and there's a guy who was at Evangel 30 years ago, or 20 years ago, and I'm sitting there, and boy, I am excited about what I'm teaching. There's this guy over, it would be on the right, third row. I knew where he was. He sat there like, he was like, prove to me that I should listen to you. and I had this struggle of not like trying to convince this guy. And there's 500 people here, but I am speaking to this guy, trying to win him over. What I needed was guns, money, lawyers. Remember? Successful people think, why should I change? We stop listening. But then something happens and we hit a wall. And somebody says, if you don't change, you're fired. What? Wait. This does not make sense. I think I'm the top salesman in the company. I think I'm the brightest guy here. I think I'm the most, you make more money off of me than anybody else. I have built this organization from nothing to where it is. And you're what? This does not make sense. We hit a wall, we get to a level, and are unable to go further. Or what works now, all of a sudden, no longer works in the future. You get kind of the big picture of that? Yeah. What got you to where you are may not get you to where God wants you to be. It becomes, that success becomes that glass ceiling that hinders us from growing further. And guys, what I'm going to talk about, 20 things, I bet half of them have my name at the beginning of them. Instead of asking why, we work harder at what we did to get to where we want to be without success. Like, why is this not working anymore? I mean, there's styles of leadership that were prevalent and worked really well, but aren't working so hot these days. The world may have changed. Here's a verse that has struck me, and all of us who speak as ministers, we need to listen carefully. In Matthew 7:13, Jesus said, "Why do we see the speck in our brother's eye and miss the log in our own eye?" Guys, we got to do more than just, that is a great, easy passage to preach. First, it says, address the speck in your own eye. And you know what the result is? You can actually see better to remove the speck in your brother's eye. So, first address your own life, and then you are better prepared to help others. So I'm going to share 20 things, and I've written them down, and I'll try to move rather quickly through here. And these are situations that are so subtle, and you're going to even say, hey, is that so bad? But I want you to know that there are better ways to deal with it. There are things that we are blind to in our own lives that we might be hitting the ceiling, and we're wondering what the reason is. Number one is winning too much. We are winning too much. The need, what happens is the need to win at all costs in every situation. We just become a winner and everything we do is winning. Pretty soon, that becomes the goal. Winning at all costs. And each one of these I'm going to give you just as a final statement, kind of a healthy behavior if that's you. And this becomes problematic when we try to win at things that don't matter. Things that don't matter. And I have heard more foolish arguments about all kinds of things, like, have you ever tried this kind of Starbucks coffee or that? This is way better. No, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not. And you can have arguments about the most insane, mundane, crazy things in all the world. Arguments about things that don't matter. A healthy behavior, if we have the habit of winning too much and winning at all costs, is to stop and say, will winning this situation provide any long-term benefit? And it stops probably a fourth of what I talk about with people. I don't know. Winning too much. Number two, adding too much value. And that is the overwhelming need to add our 2 cents to every discussion. To every discussion, we are the professional. And we are expected to be the professional. I remember in the first church I pastored, there was a guy who did this number. He wanted to be credentialed, and he came and actually went before the presbytery, and they didn't allow him to get credentials. And he finally came back, and he wanted the general's oak leaves or whatever on his uniform. Because he knew more than me, and you know what? He probably did. Did I tell you I was this Lutheran kid 5 years later? I went to college, was a business major prior to that, and But when it came to the ministry, I was new. I was a rookie. And I remember him sitting there like this, and we're talking about, I'm teaching the Sunday school class, like, oh, Lord, help me, you know? And he's with this attitude like, I'm not going to participate, I'm just going to watch you flounder and fail, you know? And at some point, he said, I asked a question, he asked a question, I said, and he said, I said, he said, and then he said, and then I said. He said, I thought as a pastor, if you are the pastor, if you're supposed to be the pastor, you should know all the answers. I mean, do you see the ramifications of all that was said in that statement? He was saying, if you don't know the answer to this, maybe you're really not the leader. Maybe you're not really the pastor. Because I'm smarter than you are, and I know the answer, and you don't. And then one of the most wonderful ladies in the church said, I don't think we expected our pastor to be perfect and to know everything. I was just like, hallelujah. The overwhelming need to add our 2 cents to every discussion. And I have that problem. We have 4 children, and I like to help my kids understand by explaining things to them. Hey, stop laughing. You don't know where this is going. I might change my direction. And so I explained things to them, and I didn't know that it wearied them. 3, 4, 5-year-old children, beginning to explain to them. Until I heard my oldest daughter, Melanie, she's exasperated by her 2 little brothers' stupidity or foolishness or craziness, and she's just like, Ryan, if you don't change, I will explain it to you. I thought, oh no, where did she get that? It's more like, give me a spank and take away dessert. Don't explain it to me. We are trying to improve every idea that's presented because you are certain you know better. Note, the truth is, the higher we go in leadership, the more your suggestions become orders to people. You think you're giving suggestions, but they're hearing orders. Military generals don't make suggestions, do they? And that's what they hear and understand. What it does is makes the people feel like their ideas are inferior. And we don't mean this even. That isn't our motive and intention, but we're unaware of it. There's this log in our own eye. A healthier behavior instead is, instead of adding value, simply say, thank you. Instead of adding to it, just say, thank you. Keep saying it until you mean it. Number 3, passing judgment. And that is the need to rate others and impose our standards on them. We're rating them. Should I listen? Should I not listen? Can I learn from them? Can I not learn? Whether positive or negative, it gives them the feeling that they're always being graded on the quality of their input. A healthy behavior is, when people give their suggestions, simply say, thank you. Yes, very good. Thank you. Do we have people who would appreciate it if we helped them more and judged them less? You answer that. Number 4, making destructive comments. Needless sarcasms and cutting remarks that we think make us sound sharp and witty. Don't be looking at me like that. I already feel guilty. It'll give you a reputation of being unkind and turn people against you. And that's what happens. A healthy behavior is to keep your comments to yourself. Being rude doesn't help anyone, and you can look like a jerk. Number 5, starting with no, but, or however. How many times do we do that? No, but, however. The overuse of those terms secretly say, I'm right, you're wrong. I'm going to listen, but I'm going to correct. Their first instinct is to fight back. Healthy behavior, think first if your comments are really important enough to risk starting an argument. If not, keep it to yourself. Is that easy? No. Maybe for you. Number 6, telling the world how smart we are. I could have been a professional student. I love education. I love studying. I buy books faster than I can read them. I love reading. I love learning. But sometimes that does something to you negatively if we don't deal with it appropriately. Telling the world how smart we are. I love giving out books, and I give them out to the presbytery and different people because I value books. And so I read books. And I remember many, many, many years ago, a guy had a book he was going to recommend to me and give to me. This is a bit embarrassing. And I said to him, oh, I already have that book. I already read that. And I just saw what happened on his face. I read this book, I thought it was helpful. I bought it for you, and you are dismissing my gift to you. I saw the pain in his eyes, and I thought, what a jerk. This happens when people try to tell you something that maybe you've already heard. And how many times someone wants to be helpful, or they're just telling us something. And we feel this pressure to say, oh, I already know that. I already been there. I'm ahead of you. You're not ahead of me. I'm ahead of you. It's almost a competitive thing. Stop. I know that. I already know. You don't have to tell me that. I don't know if it's inferiority. I don't know what it is. But I know it's not helpful. When I looked that guy in the face, in the eyes, I thought, why did you say that? What was helped? Who was helped by that? I had that idea before you did. Well, so what? So what? And it belittles the other person and makes you look arrogant. Healthy behavior says just thank them and go on. There's no need to humiliate them because that's what we're doing. Are you guys feeling sufficiently depressed yet? If not, we'll get there. So, number 7, speaking with anger. And I don't know that I deal deeply with this, but we all know people who that is their modus operandi. In a situation, if they can't, they move to that escalated level. Using your emotional volatility to manage situations. If we use anger to our coworkers, we will be seen as volatile and out of control. And I think about that. People who that's their first response, I'm not thinking, wow, he's passionate about that. I'm thinking, this person is volatile. They're out of control. People will assume that you are emotionally fragile and probably can't be trusted. A healthy behavior is quickly remove yourself from the situation. Or take a deep breath and pause before responding. Number 8, negativity, defined by, let me explain why that won't work. It's sharing our negative thoughts when they're not even asked for. Have you ever went bowling and everybody wants to tell you what you're doing wrong with your bowling? I'm telling you folks, that doesn't help. Candace's family, they were great bowlers. I'm in high school, I'm this athlete that thinks, well, whatever athletes think, I was thinking that. And I'm out there with my girl and all of her little brothers and sisters, her mom and dad, and we're bowling. I'm like, yeah, I'm the man. I really wasn't that arrogant, but I'm trying to prove a point, And I get up there, and first ball, gutter. How did that happen? Next ball, gutter. Get up the whole family, all the kids, it's just quiet. Next one, come out of this Winston. Gutter. About the 4th gutter, I'm thinking, I'm just going to walk right down the aisle towards those pins, kick them down, crawl in the hole, and leave. When you're in the men's league, everybody's telling you all the things. No, you got this, and you follow through, and you twist your wrist, and that don't help. What helped was what they didn't do. If we don't temper positive comments with negative ones, people will get sick of hearing us. A healthy behavior, stop and think if what you're doing and going to say is absolutely necessary. Number 9, withholding information. Withholding, there is a power play in withholding information for people. Refusing to share information in order to maintain some kind of an advantage over someone else. I think that sometimes that can be accidental. If it happens often, others are going to begin to mistrust you and think, what else is he withholding? A better behavior is take time to think, who needs to know what? You know what? I think the real leaders are those who invest in others and say, whatever I have is yours. Number 10, failing to give proper recognition. This, guys, is really important. The inability to give praise and reward. Years ago, the former superintendent, Leon Freitag, asked me to put together a coaching network. And I called that the lead team. And we had all the presbyters and others who were great leaders in our network. And they had all been leaders. and they, including myself, a lot of these items they all had, because they were all successful at some level. Daryl was in that group. And the whole principle is that I would meet with them quarterly, and we would talk over the people we were coaching. And we would have 1 or 2 or 3 at the very most, if you remember, individuals, younger, immature, youthful pastors, and we were speaking into their lives. And each time we would come on a quarterly basis, I would talk about, let's work on this area, and then we'll work on that area, and how to help and better coach them. And so we would address this issue, and then we would talk as a whole, kind of anonymously, of what we're dealing with, and try to help each other, help them. So we're helping with the situation, how do we help with this or that? And I remember talking about encouragement, the importance of giving encouragement to people. And I remember a guy who had had a lot of success in his life, and I think this was true of most of us. He said, you know what, and I think it's true of me. You know, he said, you know, I have a hard time giving compliments to less than perfect work. Mm-hmm. And I thought, wow, I bet I think that once in a while. And then I thought, you know, what if your children or your grandchildren come to you at your birthday and they give you this little something that they made with their own hands? They use their own little saw and their own little thing and their colors, and they made this picture frame for you. But you know, I'm a guy who I walk into buildings, I see the miter cuts and whether they match up right. Yeah. And some of those stupid things, they just irritate me. Like, goodness, somebody should just shoot that person. Yeah. That's not acceptable. You see things like that, and folks, it's not always good. And I remember saying, what if your child came to you and said, here, Dad, what do you say? That's a piece of garbage. There's no right angles there at all, and they don't match, and the wood grain doesn't line up, and the colors you use don't. And all of a sudden, all of us in the room said, oh yeah, we're all growing, we're all learning, we're all at different stages. We can be encouraging with people with less than perfect work, failing to recognize people. You will get a reputation of being unjust, unthankful, ungrateful, unwilling to give others the credit that they deserve. Instead, behavior, take time just to think about this. Think about where you were 10 years ago, 20 years ago. I remember when we first got married, and we had children, I had long hair, and I was this young, we were like, oh, we're just gonna live on love, you know. We know all about everything, you know. And then we had children 2 years apart, and then one 5 years behind, and then I got on a school board again, and all of a sudden I'm looking at all these young kids having kids, and I'm thinking, do they know anything? And then I'm like, that was me 20 years ago. Take time to give credit where credit is due. Number 11, claiming credit that we don't deserve. Guys, all day long, I get credit for things I have nothing to do about. And I've told 20 people, they are thanking me like I was the speaker, and like I am doing all the workshops. And I'm like, wait, no, it wasn't me, no, it wasn't me. We, as leadership, we are blessed and honored, and you know what? That's right. All of those things are right, and I do those things to other people. Say, what a great event. Thank you for hosting this, allowing us to come. That's appropriate, but there's something that can happen when those things come our way consistently, and that we can begin to believe that press. And this is the most annoying way to overestimate our contribution and success. When we claim credit for something we had little or no involvement in, we create this rage and anger in people. A healthy behavior is think when you are complimented. Consider how others have added to that accomplishment. Number 12, making excuses. We're going to skip that one. No. Because my back is hurting, and I think I should just jump over to number 13. The need to reposition our annoying behavior as a permanent fixture so people excuse us for it. Some people believe that their poor behavior is a permanent part of who they are. Well, I'm Irish. That's the way Irish are. Well, I'm whatever it is. And we somehow accommodate because of that. A healthy behavior is to think, am I truly unable to change, or am I unwilling to change? We need to decide that we're going to make the change. It won't be easy, but people will respect you for doing it. And there are lots of areas in our lives that we somehow justify. Number 13, clinging to the past. And that is a need to deflect blame away from ourselves onto events and people from our past. It's because of this. It's because of my parents. It's because of my economic set. Because I was born in North Dakota. It was because I was born up in the hills. Because I was born down in the valley. It was because I was on and on and on. We can go forever and ever clinging to the past. People will wonder why your past problems gives you the right to take it out on people today. Whoa. A behavior, own your past, but change moving into the future. Number 14, playing favorites. That's failing to see that we are treating some people unfairly. Because we like them, because we connect with them, because they're our style, we like the way I like abrasive people, I don't like abrasive people, I like, on and on, and we honor and justify those people, and everybody else is saying, what's the deal here? Aren't we all involved here? Didn't we all give? Didn't we all participate? Number 15, refusing to express regret. And that is the inability to take responsibility for our actions. Admitting when we're wrong or recognize how our actions affect others. Healthy behavior, apologize, and don't let pride get in the way. Number 16, not listening. Did you guys hear that one? What? We said what? That's good. That's good. That was rhetorical. Which one am I on? Refusing to, no, not listening. This is the most passive-aggressive form of disrespect for co-workers. Some people feel so confident in their ideas that others don't deserve to be listened to, or it's a waste of your time. I remember in high school we were in the farm machinery business, International Harvester, and we had this partsman who kind of frustrated us. He knew everything about everything about everything about everything. In fact, he didn't know, but we as teenagers started calling him News. He didn't know that. Sorry, we were kids. It was before I got saved. I was still a large Lutheran then. And I remember my dad saying, boys, you will respect Roy. He's an adult. And so we just learned there's some things you do and you don't do. Not listening. Respect and listen to everyone. Respect and listen. Listen intently. What does Covey say? First seek to understand, then to be understood, I think. First seek to understand. If I'm going to really communicate with you, I need to not be preparing my rebuttal. I need to really honestly listen. And I have got families that are super liberal, super conservative. And I mean tons of PhDs, doctors and lawyers, and when we come together, the doctor and lawyer doesn't mean they're one side or the other. They're both sides. But they talk over each other. Nobody's listening, and then nobody trusts because nobody's waiting, nobody's wanting to learn and grow and understand, not listening. Number 17, failing to express gratitude, the most basic form of bad manners. Many avoid expressing gratitude because they see it as a form of weakness. If I thank you, I've seen that, I'm just like, my goodness, you don't know what you're doing to yourself. Thank people, be grateful, be thankful. It didn't impact you at all. It didn't make you any smaller, any less, any lower by saying thank you. Number 18, punishing the messenger. I have played the second chair role in a lot of positions. And I've been at the head of the table. And you think about the people that bring you information that you need to know. Punishing the messenger is the misguided need to attack the innocent who are usually trying to help us. Getting angry with a person who has the responsibility to tell you the bad news. Just simply say thank you. And even events like this, where people want to come up and say, do you know what's going on here? Like, this isn't working. Somebody didn't start on time. On and on and on and on and on. Just say thank you. I need that information if I'm going to make a wise and better decision. 19, passing the buck. The need to blame everyone but ourselves. Healthy behavior, accept the blame, tell your coworkers what you're going to do. Number 20, an excessive need to be me. I gotta be me. I don't care about you, I've just gotta be me. Exalting our faults as virtues because they are who we are. It goes something like this. Some feel that their harmful habits are to be celebrated because those habits are a part of who they truly are. And if they're going to be authentic and genuine for who they really are, they gotta be who they really are. And I guess you have to deal with it. A healthy behavior is remembering that your feelings aren't the only ones that matter. That are my authentic actions worth damaging that I'm going to do to others and to my own reputation? I just remember a guy, he was just kind of this arrogant guy, and he said, you just need to know that I wear my feelings on my shirt sleeves or whatever the cuffs are. That was the first time I'd ever heard that. I'm like, what? Let me look at your cuffs. I don't even know what that means, but I just know you're arrogant. And finally, goal obsession. And that is that we're going to reach our goal no matter what. If we have to run over people, we're going to run over people because our goal is primary and most important. So, how can we change for the better? First, recognize them in ourselves and identify your habits. Recognize them in yourself. Say, I think I have that speck. Actually, it's probably bigger than a speck. Number 2, feedback. Get feedback from others. Never respond by arguing. The moment we become defensive, we stop learning. Number 3, or whatever it is, apologize. Swallow your pride, go to the person, apologize. You will both feel better. You know, this is so easy for me to read and say these things. But when we leave, we're going to have to go outside these doors and live that. Number 5, or whatever, tell others. After you apologize, and each one of these is more and more challenging, but each one of these is better and better and better for us. After you apologize, say, I was wrong. I was not kind. And I'm going to try to do better. I'm telling you, I'm sorry, I apologize. You know what? If I did you, I know I was wrong. I'm telling you, I'm going to try to do better in the future. And then be thankful, whatever, whenever. Someone does something beneficial to you, just say thank you. No explanation, no comment, no, I know that already, no, I'm better than you, or you can improve on that. Just say thank you. That's not real hard. Most of these things are rocket science. They don't take, it just takes kind, hi. She said, I'm number 10. I want to be number 1. And then the next one is follow-up. The key, this is the key to ongoing success. Let's go back to this comment here, Vondell. Vondell, I'm sorry. I want to get better in the future. Will you help me be What did I just do there?
Give them the power.
Gave them power. It put me in an accountability relationship with them. Because anybody can say, how many times have you had people say, I'm sorry? And you're like, yeah, well, wait till tomorrow, because you'll say it again. I'm sorry is one thing. Vondell, it was not right. And I want to change. I want to improve. And maybe you don't even get to point 3, because each one is tougher. Will, I'm the superior one. I'm over him. I'm smarter than him. I'm all these things, and I'm going to ask him for help. This doesn't figure right. Vondell, will you keep me accountable? Will you help me get better? Folks, that's not easy. And then finally, feed forward. Have people help us look ahead. Before we step into the mud, as much as we can, encourage people with honesty and candidness and transparency. Say, I don't want to mess up. I don't want to keep doing stupid things. If there's things you see, help me. And when you do, I'm going to say thank you. Pretty easy. Thank you. Let's all practice that. Ready?
Thank you.
Well, it's pretty simple. Feeding forward. Helping you improve in the future. So, summary, ask people for help. Listen to what they say. Fight the urge to respond. Thank them for their input. Don't punish them. Acknowledge them. Not promising that you'll do everything they say. Just because you say thank you doesn't mean everything they said is perfect and wonderful and it's a better idea. No, it might not be. But so what? Just say thank you. And then involve people around you, change, and then have follow-up. I wanted to go into the last page, but this is what I had on there, so. That was actually the first page and the second page too.
That's an insightful page.
What?
It's an insightful page.
Insightful. Any thoughts?
This might sound like I'm passing the buck, but I had a great teacher who did most of this, my dad. So I've learned to not copy what he's done, what he did. He never gave recognition to my brother and I. He played favorites. And he did all kinds of stuff that was in there, and I've learned, I'm an encourager because I never was. And so I love to encourage people. I encourage them whatever, if someone's doing something that I don't know, I'll say, wow, this looks really nice, or whatever. I've learned.
And you can learn, but you got to be aware of it. And most of these things we're not aware of. We don't even think about it. We think we're helping people, and we're not. And, you know, we have all seen entire families, and their DNA is they don't encourage, they don't, and I've talked in counseling situations, and I know the whole family, and that husband, that wife, is their love language might be words of affirmation, or something. My family was very verbal, not mean, not loud, not crazy, and we were all huggers. And so you think, well, that's how you express love and appreciation and gratefulness. But some, they don't. One of our pastors said, in my family, a good, solid, warm handshake from mom is about what I could expect. But does that mean that's right? I mean, just because of that, we say, you know, you need to work on this. I was just talking to a parent about their young adult daughter about 5 minutes about the husband. The husband was talking to me and said, you know, I don't know. If I hear my wife say, you look good, thank you for what you do, you're smart, you're talented, you're anything, but I never, ever hear that. And I'm the kind I need to hear that. And we were talking about it, and they said, yeah, our whole family is like that. We don't compliment. So do we say, get used to it? We don't compliment. So we criticize, we help you grow, we criticize you, we show you every time you're wrong, and you're going to be better for it. Oh yeah.
Just a thought, because you said here, bad habits of successful people. As I was listening to this, thought came that this could be bad habits of people trying to be successful. They don't, because some people, I think, there may be some in the room that don't feel like they're successful. But this is still something they're trying to do to be successful, and actually it's limiting them from being successful. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
Yeah. Let's kind of feature on that a little bit, because that is so, there's two sides to that. And my issue about this book that I got, and I kind of destroyed the intention that was given me. Why? Well, maybe because I was feeling inferior, or I was feeling something. I had to somehow justify something. So I don't think it means that only successful people do these things. Sometimes we just do it as a defensive mechanism to protect ourselves from being found out that we're not as smart as we want people to think we are.
And it may not even be intentional, it just might be completely
And most of it
Well,
isn't.
yeah, right.
And you guys are like, oh, guilt, guilt. And I'm thinking, hey, it's the speck and the log.
Right.
I find myself, I do the presbyter, and they're all like, oh.
You know, question or comment, what is a good answer for that? You know, I mean,
What is the answer for what?
well, I've read a lot of books, had a lot of books given to me, and so what is a good answer? Like, this guy hands you a book and you say.
Thank you. You guys, it is that simple.
Yeah.
And even if their idea is better, just say, thank you. Is there something wrong? Did we deceive something? No, we're just grateful.
Yeah, because factually, you may have read the book already, but it
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
You know, it doesn't.
You know, take it, and if he assumes you read it, maybe you even go and skim read it again, so you're fresh on it, so when they come and ask you again, you're fresh on it, and they can assume you read it for the first time.
Yep.
Just to preserve the relationship.
That was far more important than the stupid comment I made. I mean, I think this guy was just like, oh, forget it. I'm never gonna give you a gift again. It's like, what's that phrase? Looking a gift horse in the mouth? The principle is someone gives you this gift, you say, well, before you give it to me, let me look at the horse's teeth. No, I won't take it. That's the whole principle.
And maybe this is a whole nother session would be, but what if you're on the other end of where, you know, within leadership and there's other leaders in your organization or church, or just regular people who have a lot of this, you know, how as a leader do you deal taking that?
I think a couple things. Let me tell you the answer.
Okay. Magic
Let me
formula.
tell you where you're wrong, and then I'll give you the right answer. I think this session helps us understand and be more sympathetic to people. Because we're seeing things in ourselves that we like, oh, that's me. Oh, I've been there. That's the way people are. If Jesus said, we don't see the log in our own eye, but we see the speck in our brother's eye, folks, that's all of us.
Yeah.
All of us. And I got to think about that repetitively. All of us. All of us also means me. And I shouldn't say all of us because I feel like I'm blaming you. I should say, oh, that's me. Oh, that's me. Yep. That's helpful to understand that and not to respond. There was another thought I had. Did anybody else have a further comment or her thought? Can we help? Yeah.
Well, one thing would be, a lot of times by leading it by example, you can show a better way to do something.
Yeah.
And so if you're leading by example with someone that's doing some of these things, and you do it the exact opposite,
That lady
and
in my
then pray
church.
for them,
Yeah.
that, you
Yeah.
know,
That's right.
that they would understand,
That lady
without
in the
you
church.
explaining it to them.
Right, yeah.
But I got to stop. I got something to say.
Time.
I'm living it out. Time's up. Yes.
I had a question. You said you're from a large Lutheran family? Now, I knew a small Catholic family was 5. What's a large Lutheran family?
There were 8 of us. Yeah.
8 kids or?
8 kids. And my wife grew up in a large Catholic family, but it wasn't really that large for Catholics back then. There was only 7 kids. Thank you guys so much. Wish we could have more time to talk, but I had so much to say and you needed to hear it.